right, perfect. I could see the comments. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and start. So, the last time I discussed my story was many years ago, probably when I first opened up the group in 2016. And that story that I posted was more of the G-rated version of what I've been through and what I've, you know, how I became what I am. Now, many years have passed since then. I've experienced a lot more than what I had mentioned previously. I've also grown a lot. So, yeah, I'm excited to actually talk about my story. If you guys have any questions regarding anything, feel free to ask them in the comments. I'll get to them as soon as I can. So, my journey with being gifted, it wasn't something that I developed, as I was growing up. I was literally born with it. Some Rabbanim have stated that I'm a natural born medium. I have been able to sense and pick up on spirits from such a very young age. My earliest experience being able to pick up on, spirits was when I was 3 years old. My mother showed me a picture. And in this picture, I saw an extra person. So I was asking her, Mom, who is this person? She didn't see what I was looking at, and I clearly saw someone in between my uncles. And she asked me to describe what the person looked like. So when I went off to give the description of what this person looked like, she was like, whoa, that's my cousin that passed away when he was 21. How are you seeing this? And it was at that point where I kind of was learning to differentiate between seeing things that are actually in this realm and seeing things that are not in this realm. From that much of a young age, at 3, barely, learning to talk and learning to interact and everything like that. My mom also told me that apparently I used to talk to myself a lot as if I was talking to somebody else. Some people call it, what's that? Imaginary friend. So I had quite a bit of those when I was growing up. I don't really remember the imaginary friends, but my mom told me about it many times. And it made me feel very out of place. Very much out of place. I felt like I couldn't connect to the world that we were living in. And mind you, when I was growing up, we didn't grow up religious at all. And, we were somewhat traditional, we knew about the high holidays and whatnot, but it was very basic to minimal. So spirituality wasn't really in the house. At the age of 6, my gift started developing of being able to read people. Now, with this, it was very intriguing. I remember my parents had a guest come over, and my dad wanted to do a certain business transaction with someone specific. And I'm looking at this person. He told my dad that I'm staring at him as if I'm looking into his soul. I was only 6. I was just intrigued and cautious by, I guess now I know it's energy that he was just radiating out. So after my dad finishes speaking to this person and the person leaves, I told my dad, be careful from him. He's a snake. My dad thought I was really weird and thought I was crazy and thought I was, just not connected to this world, like at all, at all. And after about a week, he comes with a very shocked face and literally tells me, "How did you know this person was a snake?" I'm like, "I just knew. I was at 6 years old. I just knew." Trying to navigate things that I was able to see and hear and feel and pick up on was very, very, very difficult for me because no one was able to explain to me what I was experiencing and what I was feeling. And like I said, my parents weren't spiritual at all. I remember when I was 7 years old, just about, I think I was about 7, we went on a family trip, and one of the family members, brought other family members to this trip. And I looked at this person and I told my mom, I'm like, "Mom, I feel like this person is going to die in 30 days, within 30 days. And again, my parents have looked at me like I was crazy for a very, very long time. She didn't pay attention to it, didn't, literally disregarded it. And 27 days later, that person passed away. When I found out that news, I went into my own nutshell. Because not only did I feel like I was different, it was more and deeper than that. It felt like I was not human. It was one of the most excruciating and painful feelings that I've experienced. When I was about 8 years old, I had my first out-of-body experience. I don't know if it was a near-death experience or, whatever it is that you want to call it. I don't think that I was on the verge of dying, but I clearly remember being out of my body. And yes, it started off with a dream. My mom remembers this very clearly as if it was yesterday. A lot of these events she remembers clearly. Some of them she doesn't remember, but that's okay. I remember I went to sleep and I tried to get up out of my bed. And the moment I thought I put my feet on the floor, I didn't have any feet and I stumbled in the air. And as I was stumbling in the air, I didn't understand why I was floating. And I didn't know what was going on. And I kept floating around the house. And then shortly thereafter, I'm floating above my house. And I'm being pulled up. And I'm being sucked up. And then I realized that I'm being pulled away from my body. And I started to panic. I remember screaming, "It's not my time, it's not my time, it's not my time." And I heard a voice telling me that I have to help my parents go back on the path of Torah. Go on the path of Torah. If I agree to it, then they're going to bring me back. And me being only 8 years old, what am I to do? I'm going to say no. So I said, "I'll do whatever you want. Put me back. I can't leave my mom. I can't leave my sister." I honestly didn't mention my dad, but it was very scary. And yeah, I was being pulled into a very bright white light. And it was very blinding. So the moment I said I agree, It's like I was cannonballed back into my body. When I came back into my body was levitating above my bed for like 3 seconds, and then I fell on my bed. I screamed out for my mom the moment I woke up. My mom came into the room, and my whole bed was drenched. I'm not talking about an accident, that happens. It's as if someone took my bed and soaked it in a swimming pool. The whole thing was wet, drenched. That's when my mom started to believe me more. Man, the amount of times it took for me to suffer in order for them to believe me was a long, long time. Yeah, it was like birthing water, 100%. From that time, I started becoming very scared to sleep. I used to sleep with my door closed. And then it was, my door always had to be open. Always. Throughout the time of me being born to like about age 8, I had a lot of random experiences of seeing souls that no one else can see, being able to get the description down to a T with what I'm seeing, and people actually connecting the dots with who it is that I'm seeing. Sorry, just some of it's like really didn't give me a second. After age 8, I started developing more premonitions. And the scary thing about the premonitions that I experienced was that I had 99.9% accuracy. And that scared the living daylights out of me. But to backtrack a little bit, my parents started putting me from therapist to therapist to therapist to therapist. None of it was able to help because they didn't know exactly what they were dealing with. I don't blame them. They didn't have any experience. It wasn't really so popular back then, this whole topic. Not that it really is today, but people are at least more aware of it. Okay, Faye's asking if the premonitions were visions or dreams. It was both. It was both. Visions, would happen on the same day. There was one time when I was driving with my mom on the freeway, and I told her, "Mom, you need to change lanes right now." And that was at the part where I was already like further developed in my gifts, and she believed me. She changed lanes, and the car in back of us crashed into the car that was in front of us. So if I didn't tell my mom to change lanes, we would have been hit by the car in back of us. My premonition started at a fairly young age. My first premonition was about at 8.5. That's when I told my mom to, change lanes on the freeway and many random stuff like that. The big premonitions that I've had, I'm going to name 3 of them right now. The first one was the 1994 Northridge earthquake. I'm not sure if any of you guys remember that horrible earthquake, but I dreamt it happening about 20 minutes before it actually started. In the dream, I had the timestamp 4:32. I saw the magnitude of the quake. I saw the damage that it was going to get done. Um, Immediately right after I saw that, I got up. I ran to my parents' bedroom. I looked at the time. It was 4:10 in the morning. I'm yelling at my parents that we need to get to safety. There's going to be a very big earthquake in about 20 minutes. And I'm freaking out. They told me, go back to sleep, go back to sleep. You're crazy. You're imagining things. You're seeing things. There was no one to talk to, literally. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if it was going to be real or not real. So I just went back to bed. And somehow I knocked out cold. I don't even know how I knocked out cold, but I knocked out cold. When I woke up next, the earthquake happened at exactly 4:32 a.m. And I was on the floor. Apparently the earthquake threw me off the bed. And I had a type of bed where I had two headrests, and I had a TV above my head. And whenever I wanted to watch TV, I would, put my head on the other side, so I can watch. Other than that, when I would sleep, my head would be right under the TV. So I was thrown off my bed, and my TV somehow got off the wall mount and landed this far from my head. My door got jammed, and same with my sister's. My dad had to break down. Mine was a little bit easier to pry open, but my dad had to break down my sister's door to get to her. And then after the earthquake and everything, and the whole house was a wreck, absolute wreck. I look at my dad in the face and I tell him, am I crazy now? He didn't even know how to respond to me. He didn't even know how to respond to me. So yeah, that was one of the major ones. Another premonition that I had was when I was about, my sister was turning 21, so I was 16 at the time. It was right before my sister's birthday, 3 days before my sister's birthday. I dreamt that she received some kind of a package in the mail, and it had a little bow tie on it. And I remember her picking up the package, in the dream. She's shaking it around, trying to figure out what it is. And as she's like undoing the bow tie on the package, the whole thing blows up in her face. So I didn't know what to make of that premonition, and I'm freaking out, warning my sister, if you get any packages in the mail, don't open it. If you get any packages in the mail, don't open it. Oh gosh, my sister knew that I was gifted, but she also thought I was on the crazy side. So her birthday comes around, and again, I'm telling her, don't open any packages. And she was like, just chill out. I'm not getting any presents, whatever. I'm just going out with a friend. Chill. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll chill. I remember it was about 8:43 p.m. I had this feeling of, oh crap. And I told my dad, I'm like, something happened to Karen. She's going to call. Something happened to her. She's going to call. Less than 5 minutes later, the phone rings, and it was my sister. And she got into a massive accident, car accident. She was with one of her friends. The impact of the accident was on my sister's side. And the thing that popped in her face was the airbag. Not only did it just deploy, it actually popped. Now, the impact was on my sister's side, and yet the friend that was in the car with her had broken bones all over his body, and my sister came out without a scratch. And that's when my dream made sense. I'm like, holy cow, the present is her life. She just got her life as a present right now. And that just blew the whole family away. I'm going to backtrack a little bit to when I was 10. When I was 10, I had my first Ouija board experience, my first and my last. Sometimes people ask me about the Ouija board, if it's dangerous, not dangerous, is it real, is it not real? So I'm going to tell you my encounter. Yeah, at 10 years old, even though I knew I was able to predict things and pick up on energy and, feel like a total outcast with the world, I didn't believe that the Ouija board was more than a game until it started having a mind of its own. I even remember my friend's name that I played with. Her name was Ariella. And we were just playing around with it. And there was one soul that came through. He called himself Sid. I remember we were having fun with it, and I said, if you really are, a spirit, can you put our favorite song on the radio? And it answered to yes. So we opened up our favorite station, and I'm like, okay, after this song, can you have them play this song? It goes to yes. So we're waiting patiently, by the radio, and the song that we requested came on. We did that 3 times. And then after the 3rd time, Sid spelled out stop. So me and my friend, we looked at each other and we were like, no, this is kind of fun. We get to listen to our favorite music, on the radio station. We don't really want to stop. And then Sid put again on the board, stop. And I didn't really know how to properly open a session or close a session. I wasn't, into that at all. But I was going to ask this soul, Sid, another question. And then I felt a burning sensation on my leg. I lift up my pant leg a little bit, and I have this huge red imprint, like burn imprint of a hand, like grabbing my leg. And when I started to feel the pain, I'm like, ow, this really hurts. Like, what the hell? Sid types again. I said stop. I'm like, okay, we're going to stop. You can go now. And then it just went to goodbye. It just flew to goodbye. And I'm just like, okay, I am never doing that again. Just nope. Not doing it again. And yeah, my friend got really spooked. She didn't know what to do with the board. And we both had this automatic reaction. Let's break it and burn it. Okay, hold on. They're asking what did Sid originally want when he came through? I don't know. I guess just to chat. Or maybe he wanted to tell us to not do it. I have no idea, but I think at that age I knew better than to piss off a spirit. So yeah, we just ended up stopping after I got that huge handprint burn mark on my leg. And I think it was right after that my experiences with seeing and hearing and feeling got a lot more intense. Could Could that have opened the door? Probably. I mean, I know what opened up my door in the first place. When I only found that out when I was about 19. So, backtracking to when I was 10, time goes on a little bit, and we move into a different house. On my personal posts on Facebook, this is called the Hell House. For those that are tuning in, do you guys remember me talking about the Hell House? Oh gosh, this house was located in a suburban area or rural or whatever it's called. I don't know. It's called West Hills. It's in Los Angeles. And yes, it is very hilly. I remember when we walked into that place, I told my mom, I do not like this house. It was 1, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms, 2 huge living rooms. We had a pool. It was fairly big. Sounds like a horror movie already. Oh, the Hell House was a complete horror movie. Complete. My first experiences in that house were the typical, lights going on and off. For those of you that have a hard time sleeping at night, if you guys get scared very easily, maybe tune in another 10 minutes, because my experiences in the Hell House, literally almost every single horror movie that existed covers it. I'm not kidding. So we lived in that house. Oh, hold on. Before Z Parnas, are you planning to write about your experience? Many people have told me that I need to write a book about my life experience. But I'm going to need help with it if anyone wants to help me out with it. But we moved into the Hell House when I was about 13. Yeah, it was right after the earthquake. I was 11 years old when the earthquake happened. We moved into the Hell House when I was about 12, 13. And this is where things really started to amp up. Not just for me, but for my whole entire family. We lived in that house for about 3 years. And 2 out of those 3 years, I had 7 friends pass away. Just in that little time frame in that house. Little did I know that my room was the center of it all. I mean, you would feel, icky energies around the house and, in my sister's room or in the other room. But my room was the worst of it, the absolute worst of it. It got to the point where my dad had to redo the electrical inside the house. You know how when you turn on a light switch, it turns on the most recent one? So he flipped the light switches in a way where when I flip the switch, the light ahead of me turns on. Because many times I had to run out of my room into my parents' bedroom. The things that I went through in that house Good Lord, the amount of times I had to run out or run into my parents' bedroom, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Um, I remember it was New Year's. I had a friend sleep over. We were in the living room and we were waiting, for the clock to go down, waiting to say Happy New Year's, right? And we're just like watching TV and kind of like also staring at the ceiling at the same time. We slept in the living room, and both me and her saw a shadow fly across the ceiling. We both said, "What the heck?" 3 seconds later, all the lights in the house went out. The lights were off for about 5 seconds, and then it turned back on. That's when I started noticing that the house is alive in more ways than one. Okay, Faye is asking, was your bedroom the center because everything was attracted to you? Not only that, right before we moved, we found out that the owner of the house did a seance in my room to try to connect to his dead wife. I'm talking about this and I'm getting heart palpitations. I'm not kidding. Why didn't your parents move out sooner? That's a very good question. I guess the Hell House was kind of like the breaking point of them thinking that I'm crazy and at the same time starting to believe in my gifts. So, other experiences I had, I was never alone in that house. There was no way. We would have the cabinets in the kitchen, the cabinet doors in the middle of the night just be completely open. I would go and I would close the cabinets, or my dad would go and close the cabinets or the drawers. I've had things fly at me, whether if it was sharp objects, cups, plates. There was an active poltergeist in that house. And I always got the what was it called? The brunt end of the stick. Okay, Janet is asking, what age did you first discover your gifts? At the age of 3. If you want, when I'm done with the live, you can, it's going to be posted on the wall. You could listen to the beginning. So I had things fly at me. The glass cups. I just remembered the glass cups. My mom had to buy plastics. Yeah, because every single time I held a glass cup in my hand, it would explode. It was very traumatic, this house. I didn't even get to what I went through in the bathrooms and, my room personally, just like what I went through around the house. We would also get random phone calls, and whenever we would pick up the phone, all we would hear is static. Let's see, what else? Lights going on and off, kitchen cabinets, drawers, things flying at me. Okay. The pictures around the house. This is when my mom started to believe me, by the way. I would stare at a picture and the picture would shapeshift. It got to the point where I asked my mom to take the pictures down because it was really scaring me. And she really wanted to believe me. So she stared at the picture of her father. He's deceased. And she told me that she experienced that the picture started changing images really fast. on her. I remember that she went to my dad. She told my dad about her experience. And my dad answered, "You're letting her craziness get to you. I think it's best if we put her in a mental hospital to get evaluated because I think she's crazy. And I think she's making you crazy." That was very hard for me to overhear that conversation. It's like, after all this time, I've proved and I've proved and I've proved, and yet my dad still thinks I'm crazy. And now my mom experienced something, and now he thinks that we're both crazy. So if one person thinks that two people are crazy, the crazy person is that one person. Oh. The bathroom in that house. My first experience in that bathroom, I remember walking in, and you would have like this area where, the toilet was, and then there was like a door that goes into where the bathtub and the shower was, and then there's a mirror right in front of the bathtub and the shower. So I looked in the mirror, and my image completely disappeared. It's like I was not there, but I was there. I even took my hand and I put it towards the mirror, to touch the mirror, because I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I was able to physically touch the mirror, but I did not see my reflection. And there's been plenty of times where the poltergeist that was in that house has locked me in the bathroom. My dad had to replace that door like 3-4 times. There was one time when I was in the shower. I remember seeing a trail of blood within the water. And I'm looking on, my body. I'm not seeing anything. I finish the shower. I get out. I turn my back. I have 3 scratches on my back. I told my parents that if I'm ever going to be using the bathroom ever again, I am leaving the door wide open. And my dad did it in a way where I can actually tie the doorknob to the wall so nothing can slam it shut and lock me in. I felt the scratches after it happened because it was a burning sensation. It burned. It burned. Okay, hold on. Rosie's asking, any written messages or threats? No, I didn't get any of those. Just experiences. Okay, Janet, you might have been drawn to a portal as per the mirror, but weren't aware of it, kind of like a parallel universe. 100%. I feel like I've been living in a parallel universe ever since I was born. It sounds like every incident is the first 5 minutes of an SPN episode. Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh. And now my room. Oh man, did I hate that room. I had a dog. He was a Cocker Spaniel. He was like my favorite buddy. My dog wouldn't walk into my room at all unless I was walking into my room. And he was always on guard. Always on guard. When he would feel something about to happen, I would see him, start walking towards the door. And for me, that was a sign like, okay, time to get out of your room because something is going to happen. I remember there was one time I was doing my homework on my bed. My dog was sitting on the top right corner of the bed that's like close to the door. My door was open. I always had my door open. And I had this really weird feeling. And I had a trash can that was next to my window. And I had books stacked on top of the trash can. It was there for days, did not move an inch. And out of nowhere, those books go flying across the room. Nothing tipped it over because my dog is on the bed. My dog got startled. He stands up. I'm not kidding you. He didn't jump off the bed. It was like something threw him off my bed and out of my room. And as I'm trying to get off my bed and to run out, my door slams shut. And I don't have a lock on that door for safety reasons because it's California and there's earthquakes. And my door got locked. I could not open it. It's not that I was panicking and pulling. I was trying to move the doorknob and it wasn't going. I'm banging on the door, screaming for help. My parents couldn't even get the door open. After a few minutes, the door finally released and I ran out. I also had this really huge mirror in my room. And I swear that mirror was like a portal to hell. Every image that I saw in that mirror, I drew it to the best of my abilities. And I kept a record of it, of everything that I saw. After quite some time of all of this happening, my parents decided to try to contact a spiritualist. This spiritualist comes into the house and the first thing he said was, "You have a portal to hell in this house." And she is the center of attention. She is their toy. My dad didn't want to believe this person. And this person said, "Do you want to see what your daughter sees? Be vegan." I don't remember if he said it was for 9 months or 11 months, but don't eat any meat. Don't eat eggs. Just live on fruits and vegetables. And you will see only a drop of what your daughter is capable of seeing and experiencing. He told my mom, because she was more receptive, that I'm very highly gifted and that I'm a natural born medium. And because my gifts are not developed, I don't know how to protect myself, and that's why they toy with me. My dad tries this thing of not eating meat, no eggs, no fish, literally just fruits and vegetables. Again, I don't remember if it was for 9 months or 11 months. But my dad ended up in the hospital because of his blood sugars and whatnot. And right after he got out of the hospital, he started seeing energy. He started seeing aura, all the colors. And he had his own spiritual experience. So it was at that point I go up to my dad and I'm like, "Do you believe me now?" And he looks at me with sincerity and he goes, "Yes, I will not doubt you again." The sigh of relief of "it's about time" just like got off my chest. Hold on, there's a few questions over here. Let me get to them. Okay. Faye was saying her dad was in denial, but mom was starting to believe, yeah, my dad was in denial. Hold on, where is it? There's other questions. No, my mom didn't see what I saw. I honestly don't think she would be able to handle the stuff that I have seen throughout my experience. If I still have those drawings, no, I handed it over to a rabbi. Why was the poltergeist so angry and why was he taking it out on you? Good question. I think it's because of what the spiritualist said. It's because I was born naturally gifted and I just didn't know how to protect myself, and they felt that they just wanted to toy with me. Janet was asking, in this house, did someone die in it before your family moved in? Yeah, it was the landlord's wife. And he tried to do a seance to contact her, and that seance happened in my room. There was another time, an incident that happened in my room where I don't know if it was sleep paralysis, because I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't anywhere near sleeping. I was sitting on my bed reading a book. And I felt so like extreme heavy pressure on my chest, to the point where I feel like I'm being pushed to lay down on my bed. And as I am laying down on my bed, my arms get spread out. I couldn't move. I was barely able to breathe. I couldn't scream. I couldn't do nothing. And I felt this presence was literally either trying to kill me or trying to take over me. And I am fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting until finally I let out this scream. My dad told me he almost did his pants from how scary the scream was. It was shortly after that I had the premonition of my sister's accident. And that's when my parents, they're like, all right, we can't just go to any spiritualist. We need to go to a rabbi that understands what's going on here. So that's when my parents were doing more research and more homework. And also it was at the time where my sister was of age. They wanted to find for her a shidduch. And they found this Rabbi Nickelsberg from New York. He's known to be a Makubal. And they made an appointment with him to talk about my sister and to get a blessing for her to get married. The day comes, I'm staying at home. You know, I am with a friend of mine that lives right down the street. And my parents go to this rabbi. It's the first time my parents meeting this rabbi. Very first time. They walk into the room. Before they sit down, before they say anything, the first thing that comes out of this rabbi's mouth is, where's your daughter that had the dream? They were completely shocked, like, how does he know we have another daughter? And how does he know that she had a vision that came true? So my parents answered, she's at home with a friend. The rabbi told them, go back home, go get your daughter. So my parents called the house line. They said that the rabbi wants to speak to me. And I'm like, oh crap, like, am I in trouble? What did I do? That was like my phrase, my mantra. Like, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Oh my gosh. Um, so they pick me up and they take me to go see him. And my parents are in the room. He tells my parents that he wants to talk to me only and that he'll get to them afterwards. So I go in there, I'm sitting down, I have no idea what I did, I have no idea who I pissed off. I'm just quiet and I'm just sitting there. And he's looking at me. And the first thing he says was, "You know, you're not crazy." I look into his eyes, I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're very gifted. Your neshama comes from a very, very, very high place. What you have is a gift." Bela, how old were you at this time? I was 16 and a half, almost 17. And I said it was a curse. And he says it's not a curse, it's a blessing in disguise. And one thing that really got me to believe in this rabbi was I didn't even have to tell him what I experienced throughout my life. He told me everything that I experienced. Things I saw, things I felt, things that I thought, and didn't mention a word to another soul, that I would even take to my grave. He just laid out my life. Boom. Like that. He goes, "You're a very highly in tune individual." And I told him, this really scares me. It makes me think that I'm really crazy and that I'm psycho, seeing things, hearing things, experiencing things. Like, why me? He goes into a small meditation and he says, "Unfortunately, I cannot remove your gifts permanently because you are meant to have them. But what I can do is that I can close the blinds for now. But after I close the blinds, you have to make sure to prepare yourself to be ready for when the blinds do open, because when they do open, it'll be at full force." And I said, "Okay, I don't care feeling it, I don't want to see it anymore." The kind of creatures that I saw would send chills up a person's spine. And yeah, there is a creature has a goat head with a human man body. There is a creature that is all black with many, 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 many red eyes. So anyway, I'm trying to get those visuals out of my head right now. Yeah, I have been through a lot in that hell house. And my sense of, after my gift got closed, just by feeling them got a lot more intense. And remember when I told you that during those 3.5 years that I lived in that house, I had 7 friends pass away? I'm going to tell you about a few of them. The second one that happened, the first one happened in Israel, wasn't such a big deal. I didn't really predict that one, but the second one I predicted. It was my friend Scott, and he was going to this, I guess you could say, house party and over the weekend. And I told him, I'm like, "I have a very bad feeling. I really don't think you should go." He didn't listen. He went anyways. I remember I woke up when I don't usually wake up on a Sunday morning. I woke up at 6:30 in the morning, and I knew he passed away. It was just this feeling. I called his house. His mom picks up the phone and she's crying. And I asked her what happened. And there's a very popular canyon in Los Angeles. It's called Canaan Road. It's kind of like Mulholland Drive. If you don't drive too careful on it, the road will take you. So his brakes went out and he couldn't slow down on one of the very fast curves, and his car flew over the cliff. He actually stuck around for a while. The spiritualist that was in touch with my parents told me that I have a non-Jewish neshama just hanging around me all the time. And so I told the spiritualist who this person was, and he managed to help him, get released from me. The other deaths that happened were just complete tragedies, but all of them except for one was car accidents. And I couldn't help but feel cursed. And it was right after that where I became completely numb to everything. I have a friend that's in the group. She even remembers I couldn't cry. I couldn't even shed a tear, no matter how traumatizing life got. I just couldn't cry. I was like a flat slate. One second, there's a question. Since you felt different in your childhood, that kept you of having friends, and if you had friends, did they speak to them about your experience? I didn't really have many friends growing up. I was bullied a lot when I was a kid. When I did start to have a lot of friends, I entrusted maybe one or two with my gifts, and they accepted my gifts because I proved it to them that I'm not crazy and that I'm gifted. Whether if it's with reading people or whether if it's predicting something very small and it comes about. But yeah, that's the story of the Hell House. We finally moved out of there when my mom found a plant growing in the middle of the living room, and she saw that we lifted up the carpet and we saw that the whole foundation of the house was completely cracked. I guess it got cracked from the earthquake, and it was just getting worse and worse, and we were our house was like on top of the hill, so with the crack that was happening in the foundation, the house was starting to slide down the hill. So that's when we decided that we were going to start moving out. And my parents decided to inquire with the owner, if there's been any deaths in the house and things like that. And the owner said, yeah, my wife died in the house, and we did a seance in this particular room. And when he pointed to the room, my parents were like, now we understand why my daughter was suffering all this time. And I think my parents told the landlord everything that happened in the house. And when it came to me and everything, the only thing he says was, I'm so sorry. That's it. So we finally move out of that house. And at this time, my parents know that I can pick up on energy very easily, that I pick up on spirits very easily, environmental stuff and, whatnot. we moved into a new house. My parents have been there for almost 20 years now. Most of you guys know I call that house Grand Central Ghost Station. It's not as bad as the Hell House, but there's constant activity going on over there. Literally, my mom calls me every other day, like, this happened right now in the house, and this happened, and the electronics are going crazy, and this is going on, and this is going on. And I'm just like, Mom, you got to get to the point where you just got to accept the fact that you're living in a Grand Central Ghost Station. That, it is what it is. They're going to come in and out. Oh my gosh. I remember my dad started boasting how he has such a gifted daughter that can sense things and see things. And my parents are very much into Kiruv, which is helping people become more closer to religion. And he would share my story and everything like that. And hold on, there's a question. Why is your family picking hotspots for the ghost Wi-Fi area? I don't know. Oh my gosh. But I remember there was this one person that used to do really good in business, and all of a sudden things started going downhill. And my dad said, why don't you speak to my daughter? Why don't you speak to my daughter? Why don't you speak to my daughter? And so I go over there to this person's house, and I'm feeling the energy over there. And I straight up ask him, I'm like, do you have an ex-girlfriend that passed away? He turned pale white. Pale white. And he was like, how did you know? I'm like, are you seriously going to ask me that question? I'm like, yeah, she doesn't want you to succeed. So he's like, how do I get rid of her? So I started inquiring, and he needed to do a special thing called, what's it called? Chanukah Habayit, which is kind of like a blessing of the home. And I was like, that should get rid of it. He was like, okay. He goes and he does the, blessing of the home. It's very different than when you put mezuzahs up. It's like, you gotta get a kosher minyan, you gotta read the Zohar and some Pirkei Tehillim, and then you do a Kaddish. And right after he did that, his business started picking up. I remember I also went to a friend's house, and she was just really curious on the kind of energies I would pick up on. So I'm going into her house, everything, feels off, but nothing red flaggy, except for one room. And I told her, I'm like, who does witchcraft in this room? And she was like, blown away. She was like, my roommate. I'm like, okay. So if you want to deal with it, go ahead and stay and live here. But if not, I would highly suggest you find yourself a different roommate and find a different place to live. It was like that for most of my life, even up until now. Then another instance that I had with premonitions, I was in Israel. I was doing my Shana Aleph and Shana Bet, and I was in Israel during the second Intifada. I was with my friend Richie, and we were just hanging out in Neve. We wanted to go to town to go hang out with a whole bunch of friends. I told her, I'm not going. I have a feeling something bad is going to happen. I'm not going. If you want to go, go. I'm staying here. So we both decided to stay in, and our friends that we were supposed to meet up, they were already there, and they just, continued with their nightlife, whatever. And about an hour and a little bit after we decided to stay inside and not go anywhere, we get a phone call from our friend. And she was like, it's a good thing you guys decided to stay in. There was a thwarted terrorist attack right now where we plan to meet up. They caught 4 terrorists trying to carry out a terrorist attack in the center of town. My friend looked at me. She was like, this is absolutely nuts. You're nuts. You're crazy. You know, she believed me. She loved me. I mean, we're still friends till this day. Faye, was this in 2001? This was in 2003 and 2004. So there were many premonitions that I've had. Some were small, some were huge. The most recent premonition that I had that was very huge, actually, and everything came about except for the last thing, happened in December of 2019. Faye, you remember this, right? Wait, should we missed each other in Neve? I was on campus from 05 to 07. Wow. Yes, the fire. So in this vision that I had in December of 2019, the first part of the vision, I saw a continent go up in flames, but it was like on the border. It kind of looked like the United States, but without the Florida panhandle. I couldn't make out what it was, or what it exactly what I was seeing, but it started from the border and started working its way in. After that, I saw chaos going on, people running all over the place, being all frantic and panicky, and just a lot of like chaos. After that, I heard the numbers. I heard the number 5. I saw the number 6. I still don't know what that is until this day. I'm still trying to figure that one out. But I saw airports. I saw all the planes on the ground, and I heard no flights in, no flights out. And then after that, I felt more panic. I felt death. And I remember seeing kind of like a war of brothers, but I don't know if it was like the actual war of the brothers or if it was just like civilians turning on civilians, which did happen. And then I saw the ultimate war. So it turns out that the continent that I saw go up in flames was Australia. And then the panic that I saw right after Australia was the toilet paper hoarding. And then after the toilet paper hoarding, the no flights in, no flights out, they grounded all flights. Me feeling death was everything that was going on with the corona. And then the whole riots and uprising and everything going on. Hold on, Miriam is asking, you saw Gog and Magog. I don't know if it was actually Gog and Magog or whatever it was. But the big war, we have yet to see. It has not happened yet. That was my most recent premonition. Also before the elections, I knew that the Dems would take the upper hand. I saw Trump getting like really sad and upset. I saw Mashiach right afterwards, but I don't know how or when that's gonna take place or not. But anyways, going back to my experiences, I remember when I was starting at the age of trying to get married and whatnot. My husband, he knew I was gifted, but he kind of put it on the back burner. Didn't really, as we were dating, he didn't really experience much when it came to my gifts. He got the first shock a couple months after we got married. And this was my famous story that I wrote about. It's called Edna. We were just newly married, a couple months. And it was during Shabbos, like during Sudash Lishit. I go to my husband, I'm like, about 5 minutes after Shabbat, we're going to get a phone call from one of my parents, family, friends. They're going to be looking for my parents. He looks at me all crazy, like, where the hell did you just fall from? Like, what the heck? And at that point, I knew his wife died, because I already started seeing her and I started feeling her. And Shabbat ended on the dot. 5 minutes after Shabbat, my phone rings. Guess who it is? My parents' friend. His name is Elon. He's asking, where are your parents? I'm like, they are probably still in shul. Give them about maybe 20 to 30 minutes. They'll be home. I'm on my way to your parents' house right now. I'm like, okay. And before we hung up the phone, I said, Elon, I'm sorry for your loss. The first thing he said was, how did you know? And right after he said, never mind, and said thank you, and hung up the phone. So we wait about like 20, 30 minutes, because I knew that he would be at my mom's house and he would break the news, and then my mom would call me being all frantic. And I get the call about 25 minutes later. My mom's calling me. She's crying. I'm like, yes, Mom, I know. Edna passed away. She's like, she committed suicide. And then I'm hearing Edna scream in my ear, no, I didn't. And that was like a new one for me. I was just like, whoa, okay, what's going on here? And they said that when she died, if you guys have been in Israel, you guys know how high the buildings are. So it's like if you're on the 7th floor of a building, you're actually on the 8th floor of a building. And she fell off the balcony from the 7th floor. Now, some balconies have rails and some have an actual flat space where you could sit on. And she showed me like the whole, I guess you could say, vision part of what happened, moments before her death. I see her, having a cup of tea with her sister. I see her having, sleeping troubles, and I see her taking a medication for her to help to go to sleep. And she's showing me this video on how she's desperate for sleep, and that the sleeping pills aren't really helping her. I don't remember if it was Lunesta or the other one. I don't remember, but it was shortly after this incident, there was a huge lawsuit regarding like the sleeping medication and hallucinations. And so she told me that within a time span of 4 hours, she took 3 pills. And she told me, write this down. I wrote everything down. She showed me the milligrams, how much she took, the time between. And after I got all of that information, I was like, okay, and what happened? She was like, she showed me that she was sitting on the ledge, and she started with the hallucinations. And she saw something from a distance that was starting to charge at her. And because she was sitting on the ledge, her balance wasn't so great. And as her hallucination was starting to charge at her, she lost her balance and fell over. Now, with Judaism, it's very important to clarify if, it's a suicide or if it's not a suicide, because if it's suicide, you get buried differently. So they kind of waited to bury her, and from what I understood, her body kind of like split in two when it fell. And when they picked up the body, they did a toxology report. Before the toxology report, I told my mom everything that her friend showed me. When it comes to the sleeping pills, how much she took, the hours, everything. And I told her, I beg Elon, please do the toxology report to verify this information, to clarify, because this will determine if it was accidental or if it was suicide. So the toxology report comes out positive. with the information that I provided 100%. So it was determined that it was the sleeping pills that caused her to have hallucinations, and the hallucinations probably caused her to lose balance and fall over. I'll not forget, she was screaming in my ear all the time, constantly, in order to be able to get this right and for her to be buried properly. I remember it was about 2 a.m. my time, which was 12 p.m. Israel time. And all of a sudden, the screaming stopped. I felt like I could finally have a break, from the screaming. I didn't know what happened or what was going on. The very next morning, I called my mom out of curiosity. I'm like, what time did they bury Edna? Like, when was she officially in the ground and, covered? And she said by 12 p.m. Israel time, which was 2 a.m. my time. So the moment she went into the ground, she stopped screaming in my ear. That was probably one of the most intense paranormal experiences, with spirit and getting, information and accuracy. And it was just a lot. It was a lot for me to handle. My mom, she had a very hard time with her death. And I remember as I'm talking to my mom in my mom's living room, I'm hearing Edna telling me, can you please tell my husband that I forgive him for what he did when he went on a trip to Vegas? I'm like, you've got to be freaking kidding me right now. I'm not doing this. Like, no, I'm not telling your husband nothing. And my mom was looking at me because like I'm shaking my head. I mean, she knows, like, I'm connecting and whatnot. And she was like, what's going on? Is Edna talking to you? Like, what is she saying? I'm like, she wants me to tell Elon that she forgives him for what he did. And my mom was like all looking at me, this is going to be pretty hard to do. But we had to do it anyways, because she told me that if I don't do it, she's going to continue screaming in my ear until I do. So I didn't want her screaming in my ear. And she also told me something, personal information regarding her daughter. I relayed that information over to my mom. My mom was in shock. She was like, okay, that had to have been Edna, because no one knows that information but me and her. I'm like, well, she just told me. So for that was like, for my mom, proof that, Edna was really connecting with me. Miriam was asking, she passed recently in the past year? No, she passed away 15 years ago. So I relayed the message to her husband, Elon, and I told him that she forgives him. And again, he asked, like, how do you know this information? And I said, when you go up there, you know everything. You can't hide from anything. Everything becomes absolute truth. There's no avoiding it. So he's like, what do I do with this? He's like, what do I do with this information? I'm like, you say thank you and move on. You say thank you and move on. And yeah, many experiences. I'm trying to think of another experience that I had that was absolutely insane. Whew. So many, but I'm like getting all short in time. Oh wow, it's 5 o'clock already. Whew. Let me see if I wanted to talk to you about my dark time that I had when I was completely emotionless. Because I became so numb, I felt like my neshama just got sucked into this like abyss of darkness that was really hard for me to get out. I remember contacting Rabbi Nickelsberg. because I wanted to get out of it, but I didn't know how. He didn't answer me for a while, long while. Hold on, Miriam. Okay, Vecna got you in a dark time. Yeah, Vecna got me in a very bad time. So I kind of had to learn on my own how to wiggle out of my own darkness. And I remember feeling so much anger because I wanted help. I needed help, and I felt like no one was helping me. It was the most sucky feeling, being spiritually and emotionally stranded. Even with all the gifts, that I had, I felt like it was, a massive curse at the time. And I felt I was able to start getting out of it when the impossible happened. Remember when I said when I got numb, I couldn't shed a tear? Not one. Literally, I was not physically able to cry at all. And there was a sweet person who I accidentally hurt their feelings. And it hurt me. And my friend Rachel, she saw how a teardrop was starting to come out of my left eye. And she was in complete shock. She was like, oh my gosh, are you actually breaking this right now? This is like huge. I mean, and she's seen me in even like worser times, that any normal person would be bawling their eyes out, and I'm just like cold as a slate. But yet with this specific person that I hurt their feelings, that actually got to me, and I managed to shed one tear. And then I said, wow, if I managed to shed one tear, I could definitely break down this wall. And that's what I did. I started working on myself, pulling myself out of the darkness, because I said, you know what, no one's going to help me, so I got to do it by myself. And one of the things that really helped me climb out of the darkness was a near-death experience that I went through when I was in Israel. I call this the cherry on top, even though I don't even know how many brushes with death. I could probably count them on 2 hands, but that's not enough fingers. No, this was when I was in Israel. So I was with my friend, and we went on bus number 15 going from Har Nof to the center of town. And we're passing Geula, and we're passing Mea Shearim. And right before we exit, Mea Shearim, this person gets on the bus. It was summertime, very hot, very humid. And he has this winter trench coat on, which I found very weird. And then I had this over feeling of doom and gloom just overtake my body. And my friend is paying attention to my body language, and she knows something is up. So this guy comes on. It was like a double bus. So there was maybe 5 people, not including the bus driver. Not a lot of people on the bus. The whole bus goes quiet. And I'm hearing everyone's neshama scream Shema Yisrael. The fear, I can't even begin to explain it. Like, the fear that we experience as human beings is nothing compared to the fear that you experience when you're looking at death in the face, and when a spirit experiences fear. And this person with this huge trench coat opens up, and I see his whole belt of shrapnel, nails, a bomb, everything is tied to his stomach and his chest. I was literally looking dead straight in the eye to a terrorist that was about to blow up the bus. And the first thing that crossed my mind was, Mom, please don't call me. Please don't call me. Please don't call me. Because you know how in American movies, right before someone's about to kill you, or right before you're about to blow up, or right before something bad is going to happen to you, you always get that phone call from that loved one saying that they love you. Right? Yeah. My mom calls just to tell me that she loves me. I told my mom that I couldn't talk, and that if God wanted me to talk to her, I will call her in 10 minutes. If not, then I love you too. And I hung up the phone. And it was at that very second I saw my whole life flash in front of my eyes. And the overwhelming feeling of sadness and regret was heart-crushing. Heart-crushing. Not being able to make amends, not being able to say sorry, not being able to make anything different. Now, I was a rebellious kid. You know, I knew better and did otherwise. For me, the dude upstairs had every reason to take me, and I literally had seconds to make peace with it. That I'm not going to be getting off this bus, and if I do, it's going to be in pieces. What seemed like forever and a half was only about 45 seconds. And this person said it in Hebrew, there's not enough in order to blow up, and he gets off the bus. Right after he gets off the bus driver calls it in, and the bus driver takes us to a safe area to unload. And it turns out that they caught the perpetrator and they caught the bomb and everything before he managed to do another attack on another bus. So I didn't understand why God let me live. Again, this was during my darkest times. I was just beyond in whirlwind of confusion. We take a cab. As soon as we get off the bus, we take a cab all the way back to Neve. I go and I track down my rabbi at that time. Zichrono Livracha, may his memory be a blessing. He passed away a few years ago, Rabbi Azar. And I told him about the whole experience, and he was like, you're so lucky. Hashem wants to talk to you. If this isn't a clear sign enough, I don't even know what is. And I'm just like, but every single time I go to the kotel, you know, I'm hearing, you filth, get out of here. You this, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. He was like, you have to go. You know, if God let you live, you have to go. You have to go say things. You have to try to talk to God. So I'm like, okay, I'll go back to the center of town. I'll go back to the old city. I'll go to the wall. You know, we'll see what happens. You know, we'll try to reestablish the connection again. We'll see, right? If God wants to talk to me, then he'll let it happen. If not, then I completely understand. So I get a cab to the kotel, and I'm telling God, I'm like, you know what? I understand you want to try to talk to me. I don't know if you love me or if you want me around or whatnot. You obviously did just try to save my life. Maybe there's a purpose for it, but please help me understand something. Throw me a bone here. I remember stating, I'm like, if you want me to talk to you, there's got to be room by the wall for me. Like, I got to have my personal one-on-one time with you. It cannot be packed. Like, absolutely, So I get off, you know, the cab, and I start walking towards the direction of the kotel. And lo and behold, I get so upset and so pissed off because that place is packed. I'm like, I really don't know what you want from me, but I told you that if you want to talk to me, it will not be packed, and it's packed. So you do not want to talk to me? F off. I literally said that with my middle finger flicking up towards the sky. And I'm about to leave. I didn't go with anybody. I was by myself. There was no one in my immediate vicinity. even though there was tons of people packed, towards the wall. I'm about to turn around to go back to hail a cab, to go back to Neve. And something turns my body and is starting to push me towards the crowd. If it would have been captured on video, you would literally see a human body being pushed by something that you cannot see. And I'm being pushed through the crowd, and I'm being pushed through the crowd, and I'm being pushed through the crowd. There is no room to walk. There is no room to sit. There is no room to stand. And as I'm getting pushed and pushed and pushed, something whispered in my left ear, look to the right. I look to the right. Out of everyone standing, because there's no room, all the seats are taken, no room to move, there was one seat that was empty, and it was right by the wall. That's when I knew he wanted to talk. So I go. I remember sitting at the chair, and I'm just like, all right, I don't know exactly what it is that I'm supposed to say, but apparently you want to talk to me, and I want to talk to you too. I'm all pissed. I'm having an attitude up the wazoo, trying to figure out and understand my life. And before I managed to say anything, I felt this intense, warm pressure all around my body, as if I'm being hugged. And I remember hearing in my head, my daughter, what the hell are you doing? Why are you throwing your life down the drain? You are very special. You have a tafkid, and you need to fulfill your tafkid. And I didn't understand, what that meant, but I was at that wall for 3.5 hours. And that very morning, I went and I changed my plane ticket to come home earlier. It was that point that made me had that spiritual awakening and start recovering from my past traumas and traumas with my gifts, and try to learn and, I guess you could say, vibrate higher. I haven't been able to get into so much. I mean, I got into a lot of details, Baruch Hashem, but not 100% everything, especially with how I got into coaching. I figured that with my, me being able to read energies, I could really help people, say what they can't say, what's hard for them to say, because I feel it, I pick up on it. And with all my experiences with the paranormal, I literally, I feel like I became an open book of where's the lining of what's allowed, what's not allowed, what's halachically acceptable, what's not, with my experiences. And I was in close touch with my rabbi from New York, Rabbi Nickelsberg, for a while. I haven't been in touch with him for quite some time now regarding my gifts. It's been a while, but I've grown. I really know how to, now I know how to navigate these things a lot easier than what I did in the previous years. But yeah, that's the summary of my life and my journey. Does anyone have any questions? I'm gonna wait a few minutes to see if anyone has questions. Or if you want to ask me afterwards, you're more than welcome to. You could send me a message. I'm pretty accessible. I'm sure I left some stuff out. If I think about it, I don't know if I'll do another video, but I'll definitely post more posts in the group to add to this video. Anyways, guys, I gotta get going. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about my journey. Oh, Jennifer, thank you so much. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Bela. Yeah, so feel free to reach out if you guys want to share anything or, ask me questions. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you all. And I look forward to doing more lives and to start teaching more. I know I've been off the grid, been MIA, but I'm back. And I would like to say I'm back with a vengeance. All right, guys, I'll talk to you. Have a good one.